take a look at it. So, but yeah, we got a great little session prepared for y'all, all about figuring out how you find housing in Cleveland. So really the way these run, they kind of run themselves. And it's really all about you guys. So whatever questions you all have, I just want to make sure we have all of our panelists. So I see myself, Mike, we have Chloe. Is Caitlin on yet? I don't see Caitlin yet, so I'm going to shoot her a text. Oh, there she is. What's up, Caitlin? All right. Sweet. Okay, so yeah, we're recording, we're rolling. So yeah, like I said, these sessions kind of run themselves. And it's really just a chance for y'all to ask us questions about housing. I know it's probably a very kind of hot topic, especially now that we're getting closer to start dates in the summer. So yeah, feel free to unmute yourself. We can do the raise hand function so we don't have a bunch of people like speaking at once, or you can drop a question in the chat. But I see the first one, so I'll go ahead and ask this. Do most students live within walking distance? And if they drive to campus, is there parking easily available? So I know there's one person that lives within walking distance in this group. So yeah.
Hi guys, I'm Chloe. I'm an M1. I'm from New York, but I went to Case for undergrad. So during undergrad, I lived the last 2 years in that Access at Ansel building, which is across the street from the med school. And now I live in the townhouses. So I can speak on both those if you guys have questions. But yeah, I live within walking distance, and I think it's really nice because class starts at 8 o'clock in the morning. So it's a 10-minute walk for me. So I like to walk because I know I'll be able to get there on time. There's no traffic. It's not that cold. And there's also the public bus. So that's stops right outside my house and right outside of school. So I'll take that. It's just 2 stops. Literally, it takes 1 minute. So I'll do that on the way home if it's raining. But I personally love living within walking distance, but someone else who drives, it's totally fine if you drive, can speak on driving and parking.
Yeah, and I know Mike and I both live on the east side and Caitlin on the west side. So we're all driving to campus. So since I'm moderating, I'll let other people talk, but go ahead, Mike or Caitlin.
Yeah, sure. So hi, everybody. My name's Mike. I'm also an M1. I'm from Boston. As Brian said, I live on the east side. I live in Cleveland Heights, so I drive to campus, but my house is about 6 minutes to the parking lot. And so to answer the question about parking, we have a couple of parking lots that are probably maybe like a 5-minute walk, if that, from the campus. So as long as you drive and park there, you can walk to the HEC, no problem. We also have a shuttle service that goes between the parking lots and the HEC. So if you park there, a lot of people like to sit in their cars if it's cold. And then we have a really awesome bus driver. His name's Jerry. We love him. And he takes care of us, and he drives right up to your car, picks you up, takes you right to the school. So that's pretty awesome. And we're also working right now on getting some increased access to parking that's right across from the HEC. That's not confirmed right now, but it's something that we're working on just to make parking even more accessible to students. So long story short, it's very easy to drive if you live, or if you have to drive to campus. There's a lot of things that you can do.
Yeah, and I thanks, Mike. I also just realized we should probably introduce ourselves, and thank you, Chloe and Mike, for introducing yourselves before you talked. I'll go ahead and introduce myself real quick, and then I'll let Caitlin. My name's Brian Bangs. For those that were on at the beginning, you heard Tom introduce me. I'm part of the student committee on admissions, but we're all M1s here. Originally from West Lafayette. I did my undergrad at Purdue University, and I'm a non-traditional Ben Arrow, as Dr. Amy mentioned, and had a career in consulting before coming to medical school. So also, like Taylor, a little bit older than your typical medical student, but not feeling out of place at all. So a lot of people like to refer to me as the resident grandpa, and my track record in getting injured in intramural basketball games doesn't help that reputation. So thank you, Chloe, for taking a picture of me injured and submitting it to the student newsletter.
I'm really sorry about that.
No, it was hilarious. But anyways, yeah, Caitlin, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Oh my God, sorry. This is the first time today. Hi guys, my name is Caitlin. I am also an M1. I did my undergrad at Duke University. So if there's any other Dukies in this breakout room, shout out. After that, I took 2 years off to do some research and just kind of, chill out a little bit before heading to medical school. Yeah, like Brian said, I live on the west side. So if you have any questions about that, definitely bring them up, direct them to me. I love talking about living on the west side. Yeah, I guess that's me.
Yeah, thank you, Caitlin. So I see another question in there about parking cost. I think I'll look for it online and see if I can post it in the chat. I believe there's a website, or if any of the other students know where to find it quickly. There should be like rates for the different lots somewhere online, but the two lots that you would want to be looking for are called Lot 82 and Lot 14. Those are the two lots that are utilized by medical students. But yeah, relatively.
And do you just like get a monthly pass?
So the way you actually sign up is for the whole semester. So you would sign up
Okay.
in, I think the sign up will go out sometime in the summer. And I recommend, the one thing that I didn't know going into it, and I don't think I got like my actual like SIS pin or whatever until like maybe afterwards. So if they give it out to you early and you're like able to create your account, I'd be ready to log on like immediately when they do send out that like registration email, because those spots, especially in 82, a lot of people, those go pretty quickly. The 14 one, you
Okay.
can easily get access to that. And like Mike said, the shuttle system and Jerry make it really seamless. Mike and I both park in lot 14 and it's no issues at all. I roll into the parking lot most days around 7:40, like 8 or 7:50, and I still get to school on time, starting at 8 a.m. because of Jerry. But yeah, so no issue. But the lot 82 one is just a little bit easier to walk because it's maybe like 100 yards closer, but both very close. Okay, I see some questions coming in the chat, but I also see a hand raise. So is it Jevin?
Yep, you got it. So hi, everybody. My question is like very specific. So I've been looking into like places to rent, and I've noticed some things, or I guess I've noticed some extra charges called property management fees, where it's like an additional percentage each month on top of rent and parking. And so for those of you that rent, like I don't know anything about that. Is that typical for places to do that?
Is this like an apartment or a house?
I've seen it for both.
I personally don't pay that, just like rent and utilities.
Yeah,
I just
sometimes
didn't know if that was common, like if that was like certain people trying to do it to get extra money, something like that.
you said it's called a property management fee.
Yeah,
Um,
I was
If you're
just
looking
curious. I mean,
at like luxury apartments, they might have something included in that because like in a luxury apartment is going to have extra amenities that require some maintenance. So I would, if that's the type of property that you saw it on, that's my guess. So could be amenities related.
But yeah, I can't imagine because, okay, so also for background, everyone here, I believe, except for myself, rents. I bought a condo, so if anybody has questions relating to buying as well, so feel free to ask me. But yeah, the only like thing I can think of is like Caitlin said, an amenities charge or something like that, or if you're buying like an HOA fee. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that. I'm sorry, I can't.
no, that's okay. I was just curious if you knew anything about it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. I see another question here in the chat. So looks like you will be moving. So this is from Alyssa. You'll be moving before your partner, and thinking about subletting. Anybody have any experience with subletting? I don't know if we have anybody on here that's sublet, but I don't know that anybody on here has particular experience. I would imagine it's a relatively common occurrence. I mean, whatever works for you and your partner, I think would be, best case. A lot of people just, have different circumstances and situations that they just opt to do. But yeah, depending on where you're moving from, you could potentially come look at places together before, but also I get that that's not necessarily the most feasible, but depending on where you live in the country currently. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of people, and I'll write that down and see if I can find anybody that has had experience with that, and I'll potentially try to get you in touch with them. I'm just going to write down your name. Okay, the next question I see is one of the Friday sessions, the current student said she paid about 400%. Okay, perfect. Wait, is that in relation to the maintenance fee or whatever from Millennium? Or is that a question?
I think that was in relation to the parking lot.
Oh, parking lot. Okay, perfect. Okay. Okay. Next question I see, if anyone lives in a 1-bedroom apartment, curious to know if your rent, what your rent is, if you feel comfortable with sharing, just to get an idea of what rent is like. Oh, yeah. Okay, and Mike said around 250 for parking in the fall semester for lot 14. Thank you, Mike. So anybody, if they're living in a 1-bedroom, what's your rent's like, or just generally speaking, if people are comfortable sharing rent ranges? I don't want to put people on the spot, but I will start out by saying Cleveland is especially for being like a big city. It is a very, very, very affordable city, especially on the east side where most students do opt to live, with the exception of Caitlin. I would say the east side rent is very affordable. When I was looking at buying a home, I was shocked with like the amount of space I was able to afford within the price range I was looking at. So I will say that, but I'll also let other people speak if they're comfortable. I don't want to put anybody on the spot though.
It obviously varies based on what kind of building you're looking at. So there's a lot of different perspectives. I would say that like a kind of average of what I've been hearing is like for a 1-bedroom, like maybe 15 to 1700. And then if you want to do like luxury apartment, cool, fancy amenities, that's probably going to be closer to 2. So not horrific. I pay a little bit more than 2, but I'm in like a brand new building. And also I have like, yeah, mine is kind of like randomly more expensive because it's a brand new building, but yeah.
I will say when I was originally looking, I found plenty of places that had like prices well below that $1,500 value. Like there's 1-bedrooms you can find depending on the building and like how new it is, that are still plenty sufficient to live in and safe and fine, that were under $1,000 if you're looking to, be in a 1-bedroom apartment and live on your own. That's something like when I came in, I knew I was not going to have roommates. I knew buying was going to be something that I was most likely going to be doing. So having roommates was not an option that I ever considered. And I did not want to pay above $1,000 for rent. And it's very possible. So that's something you can do. You just may need to make, some kind of go in setting your own expectations in terms of like what things you may have in your apartment. Like you may, need to get like an in-unit air conditioner or like a in-window air conditioner or something like that. Just different things that you're going to have to like learn to kind of cope with and deal with and figure out what's most important for you in terms of what your place is going to have. But yeah, very affordable to live in Cleveland.
Brian, can I add something real quick?
Absolutely. Please do, Mike.
Yeah. So if you are looking to like room with roommates as well, the cost goes down dramatically. And so that's what I did. There's like on Accepted Central, I don't know if they still do that with like the website, but if they do, there's basically this Google sheet where as people get accepted, they like put their name in, they say like, hey, it's a little bit about me, I'm just looking for a roommate, and that's kind of what I used. People put their phone number there and like you can call them up, maybe like have a FaceTime, see if you guys are like a good match, I guess you could say. And so I ended up finding a group of 4 people that all wanted to live together, and that brought our rent down to around $600 a month, $600 to $700 a month, and that's definitely doable at a lot of places here. So I'm actually looking to move out of my current place, so I'm also in the housing look with many of you, and we're only considering places that are between like $600 and $900 a month, and there's a lot of options. So yeah, I just want to throw that out there. I have some people that like live in New York and their like single apartment is like $3,300 a month, which is insane. So compared to that, finding roommates is definitely a way that you can kind of save money and make some really great friends when you first move to Cleveland.
Yeah, I would honestly probably, oh, sorry, go ahead, Chloe. I've been speaking way too much. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I have 2 roommates. It's a 3-bedroom townhouse and ours came fully furnished. So our rent is a little bit more pricey than some of the other ones. So I pay $850, but a lot of people in the other townhouses pay like $800. So I have the middle-sized bedroom, the smaller bedroom pays $750, the larger one pays $950. And then we have like a big yard and everything came furnished. So like I'm fine paying that, but there are cheaper townhomes as well. But yeah, having roommates really brought the cost down for us.
Yeah, and I would say depending on people's situations, I mean, if you're coming to Cleveland with a partner or whatever it may be, if you have a dog or any sort of pet, some like in that situation, you may not opt to have roommates because I can imagine that might be a weird situation. But I would say probably more, I would say a predominant amount of people in our class choose to live with a roommate, at least one. But yeah. So this, I'm continuing to look. Juma, you've been looking to buy a condo. Didn't see many for sale in Cleveland Heights. Was it easy to find a place? I went through a realtor. So Howard Hanna is the real estate company that I went through, and I got connected with a real estate agent, like a realtor. They helped me find places, and it was a lot easier that way because I mean, you just kind of tell them your price range, you tell them what you're looking for, what are the, must-haves that you want in your place. And they kind of helped make that a lot easier on me and like would send me places that I would look at. I also lived on Zillow for months at a time, like leading up to moving here. It was pretty easy though, if I'm being completely honest. I will say there's probably going to be a lot more places like around like the match time. So like right now is when a lot of places start going up for sale because they know with Cleveland being such a big healthcare community, a lot of places are going to start going up for sale now when, you have like residents and fellows and things like that looking to move to Cleveland because they just matched here. If you do have any issues, I'll put my email in the chat and I'm more than happy to connect with you, but I definitely didn't have all that much difficulty. But yeah, I also used a realtor, so I didn't do it alone. And I also had my parents helping me. They kind of have a history in real estate, and they also helped me kind of figure out all of like the do's and don'ts. So I had some resources, happy to be one for you if you need. And there's my email. Okay. Another question I see, how feasible is it to live without a car? Have to buy a used car, not sure if it'll be worth the expense. Anybody want to take one? Does anybody not have a car here?
I mean, I have a car, but I know people that don't have a car, so maybe I can take this one.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of people, especially in the preclinical years, like years 1 and 2, when almost all of your activities are going to be at the HEC. People, if they live in the townhouses or if they live at Inova, which is the apartment complex right across the street from the HEC, or some other people live at One University Circle, which is about a 10-minute walk. Many of them don't have cars, and that's like a very what do you call it? It makes a lot of sense for the first 2 years because you're only going to be right there. And if you do have something that like takes you to Metro like once in a blue moon, it's very easy to carpool with people because a lot of people will have empty seats and willing to pick you up. That said, for third year, when you're kind of bouncing around at the different hospitals, I know a lot of those people are considering buying a used car and just to make their lives easier because that's more of like a daily thing. But at least for the first 2 years, I'd say it's manageable, especially if you buy your place in one of those walking distance places.
Yeah, I'll say a lot leading up to starting. I know a lot of the faculty and like admissions committee and like other people on case med faculty talked about how it isn't necessarily necessary in the first 2 years. It does become pretty necessary in your third and fourth year when you are, like Mike said, needing to go to hospitals because you're not going to be on the same schedule as other people. You're going to be going kind of independently and trying to figure that out for yourself. One caveat I will say, I do know a few people who live close to the HEC and don't have a car. And the one difficulty they had was like getting to and from grocery stores. Sometimes the grocery store options around the HEC aren't necessarily like super abundant. So that might be one consideration. But it's still easy. Like, you can Postmates or like whatever the delivery service is for groceries, but still that's like one hurdle that some people experienced not having a car close to the HEC, but plenty of people do it and plenty of people make it through. So.
And I would say like you
I do
definitely
just
could
want
live
to add
without
though that Cleveland's public transportation system is not great. So if you're coming from a big city where you're used to relying on like a really great bus system or a really great train system, we do not have that. There are pockets of Cleveland and like University Circle where the HEC is one of them that have kind of good internal transit, but to get in between different places, it's really a challenge. Is it possible? Yes, but it is inconvenient.
Yeah, and I would say a lot of the fun stuff is like 20 minutes away, like in all directions. So I mean, you definitely would be able to get by. Like you definitely could take the bus to Aldi or Dave's, which is like the other big supermarket. Like you would definitely get by walking to class, but like just the things that are more fun are like 15, 20 minutes drive away, which like I like to go do things off campus a lot just so I'm not like stuck right here. So I use my car all the time, even though I walk to school, just because there's like a lot of cool opportunities, but they are like 15 minutes drive away.
Yep. I'd agree with all that. We'll get to you here in a second, Lauren. I see a couple more questions in the chat. How are students finding roommates? I know Mike mentioned it, the Excel sheet, the Google sheet that Tom or somebody puts on Accepted Central. That's the primary way I think a lot of people find roommates. Yeah, that's about the only way. I didn't consider it, so I really wasn't looking at that, but I think that's how most of our classmates have found their roommates that they live with. But yeah. Sweet.
Could you answer Jessica's question about areas you recommend avoiding when looking at this stuff?
Oh shoot. I didn't even see that. I'm sorry about that. Areas you recommend avoiding when looking for places to live. Yeah, great question. So let me pull up a map real quick. East Cleveland, I wouldn't look there. I mean, I would stay, I'll let other people speak on it, but I was looking predominantly in like the Cleveland Heights, University Heights, Shaker Heights area when I was looking for buying a place. University Circle is also like a common place for a lot of people who choose to rent. In Cleveland Heights, there's, I think, Mike, you live in Cleveland Heights. So those are like the big main areas that most people live in, like the Coventry neighborhood within Cleveland Heights, and like Cedar Lee area in Cleveland Heights is also very popular. But yeah, I mean, if you stray too far away from those, you start getting into East Cleveland, which isn't the best area. Let me pull up a map real quick. So, but I'll let other people speak if they want to address that, because I know Caitlin's from Cleveland originally, so not to put you.
Yeah. So some general advice that I would give: the street that the Cleveland Clinic and that the Heck and that Case Western are on is called Euclid. And just north of Euclid is a pretty dangerous neighborhood called Huff. I would not recommend looking there. Kind of in general, like when you're on east side of downtown and you get kind of more toward the lake, like on the north side, that is less nice than the areas that Brian is mentioning. I think when in doubt, you can shoot anything over to either any of us or like on Accepted Student Central. But like Little Italy area, Cleveland Heights area, University Heights, like, you know, those are all like Shaker Heights, all of those places are good. And then the west side area is like there are people that live in Lakewood and love it. Westlake, that's a nice area. Near West Side, which is where I live, Ohio City, Tremont, those are all good places. As far as downtown, you know, anything when you're living in a downtown area, there's going to be like a little bit more action going on, but downtown is like fine also.
Downtown's fine. Yeah. And I would say so kind of piggybacking off of that, when you start going east from downtown, between downtown and campus is also an area I would probably avoid. And then once you hit campus and like hit University Circle, once you start going further east of that and like into Cleveland Heights, we have a couple people that live in South Euclid. That's fine for the most part. It's just a little bit further away and it'll take you longer to get to campus. But yeah, I would avoid between downtown and campus, and then anything north of like anything north of Euclid and north of Cleveland Heights, between there and the lake.
Yeah, and I remember when a lot more people were accepted and they started doing like very official housing, like Tom McKenzie puts out a couple videos and series later in the summer. He has a really nice map that like highlights all the safe areas. So maybe that's something that Tom has that we can provide for people. But it really helped me, like when I was cross-referencing like the actual map on Zillow or any of those apartment websites, it confirmed that I was like going to be in a safe area.
Yep. Okay, Lauren, I know you've had your hand up for a while, so go ahead with your question, please.
Yeah, I was just wondering if anyone had specific names of apartment complexes, because I don't think I'll have a lot of time to tour townhouses before moving.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and list a few. Some of them are on the higher end. So within walking distance to campus, One University Circle, I think Mike or Chloe mentioned it. We have a handful of people that live there. It's a high rise in University Circle, about a 10-minute walk. It's called One University Circle. Axis at Ansel is within walking distance, a little bit north. It's kind of on the border of that Huff district, but a lot of students opt to live there across all of the health education specialties. And it's pretty safe to live there. And then right across the street from the HEC is a building called Inova, another very popular place for students to live in the health education specialties. Tons of dental, ton of medical, PA, nursing students that live there as well.
Can you say the second name? Sorry.
Yeah, Axis at Ansel, AXIS at Ansel, ANSEL. Yeah, those are both just north of campus on, let me look at the street. I want to say 101st. Yeah, 101st is Axis at Ansel. It's on the corner of 101st and Mount Sinai. And then Inova is literally right across the street from the health education campus. So yeah, those are three.
Thank you.
Yeah, those are three buildings that a lot of students opt to live in. And there's also a brand new apartment complex actually that just went up and just got finished. It might be a little bit on the more luxury high end of it. I forget what it's called, but it's, let me see if I can find it real quick. It's in Cleveland Heights, kind of close to the Cedar Fairmont area. And it looks,
Oh, the Ascent.
the Ascent. Yeah, that place looks super nice. Might be a little bit pricier, but it's brand new, just went up, and it's in a great area. It's close to campus, maybe not walking distance necessarily because it's kind of on the top of a hill, but it's right in the Cedar Fairmont area, which is one of the more fun areas on the east side, within walking distance to bars, restaurants, things like that. So also a good option.
Also, Little Italy is fun. I had a lot of friends in college that lived there, and there's like tons of little apartment buildings, and it's really cheap. My little lives there now, and she pays like $500. It's a 2-bedroom, so they each pay like $550, and it's really, really nice. It's like brand new. So there's like tons of places on like the little side streets in Little Italy as well.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, y'all. Okay, so this question is for Chloe or anybody with similar experiences looking into different housing options, including apartments like Axis or the townhomes, and was curious what your experience has been like with each.
Yeah, so I lived at Axis for 2 years, and I would say like within the building, it was pretty safe. It was nice. It was brand new when I lived there. So I moved in the beginning of junior year, so it was like 2021. And it was like brand new then, but like it was built like a little hastily. So some of the stuff inside the apartments was like not so nice for the price that you're paying, but it was like a good overall experience. It was a little more unsafe than like the townhomes neighborhood. Like I feel very safe in the townhouse, like at Axis. It was like across the street from like a few like housing for like people of low socioeconomic status, and there was like a few incidents outside and like a few carjackings and like things. So I felt like now that I'm in a more like closer to the Cleveland Clinic, there's like police that go around my neighborhood a lot. Like I feel a lot safer now than I did at Axis, but overall like it was nice. There was a really nice gym in the Axis building. I liked both, but I definitely think I like the townhouses better. I also now like appreciate having a whole house instead of just like a 1-bedroom. So that I like this one better now. But I mean, there's really nothing wrong with Axis if you did live there. A lot of med students live there now, and they have a nice experience as well. And it's right across from the parking lot where like the med students park. So it's the same walk as if you like would drive to the parking lot and then walk, but you don't have to do the driving part.
Thank you, Chloe. I'm just seeing in the chat, am I saying your name right? Juma or Juma? I don't know if you're there. Either way, I'm assuming the Severance Circle you're talking about is the one that's literally right across the street from me, actually, not Severance Hall. If you're talking about the one right across the street from Dave's, the Home Depot, that's
Yep.
exactly where I live. Oh, sorry, looks like you unmuted. Is that what
Oh,
you're
yeah, I
talking
was just saying, I was looking at yeah, Severance Circle, that Dave's Home Depot area.
Yep. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I live in the Bluestone condominium community right across the street from there. And there's actually an M2 that lives in my same building. And then there's 2 of our classmates that are M1s that live catty corner to me. So very popular area. Bunch of residents, fellows live in here. 3 different groups of medical students live back here. Very popular place to live in terms of like, it's super nice. I will say East Cleveland is like just north, but it's very safe here. So I wouldn't go much further north than where I am.
All right, thank you.
All right. Does driving to campus ever become a hassle with bad weather / traffic? And it seems like Caitlin addressed that. Sometimes people drive like idiots, which is totally true. Cleveland is really, really good. It being like a city in the north and that gets a lot of snow. Cleveland's very good with dealing with it. Constantly, like as soon as the snow starts falling, there's going to be plows on the road, clearing the road. I mean, you experience delays a little bit with any sort of bad weather, inclement weather, but for the most part, it's going to be pretty reliable that most of the stuff gets cleared pretty quickly. So thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. Talk a bit about access to gyms in the area. If they are not part of your apartment, do most students go on campus? Thank you, Mike. One-to-one is a very popular option for a lot of students to work out. It's specifically for members of the Cleveland community as well as grad students. You're not going to get a lot of undergrad student population to go there, which is nice, because I'm sure you won't want to deal with undergrads once you graduate, if you haven't graduated yet. And it includes parking, which is a very good call out, Chloe. So a lot of students actually, if they have anything that is like 3 hours or less at like Rainbow Babies, which is right across the street from One-to-One, or at the old medical school, which is also right across the street. You can go in, scan your badge, take a parking validation ticket, and just walk immediately out and use that parking garage as a place to have free parking.
And they also have classes. Like I go like almost every day. There's like spin classes, Zumba, dancing, like Pilates, all kinds of fun stuff. So like I did one this morning, and like a bunch of med students go to that. So that's really fun as well. And they're included with your membership to One-to-One.
Yep. And also I will say though, about the only thing I actually haven't ever done it because I'm not much of a swimmer. I'm assuming, does Veal have a pool? Yeah. So if Veal is free to all Case students, so even if you get a One-to-One membership, you still have access to Veal. You can walk into One-to-One, get your parking ticket, and then if you're like a swimmer, you can go over to Veal and do swimming, and you'll have free parking there, and do like other workouts and stuff at One-to-One. But yeah, you still have access to the main gym at Case Western, even if you don't do One-to-One. That's free with tuition.
And you don't have to get the One-to-One, like you can still use the undergrad gym. So I did that the whole first semester because a lot of my friends are still in college. So I would just go with them. And that one's just free to everyone who's a Case student. So if you don't want to pay, I think it's like $120 for One-to-One. It's not a lot, but like if you don't want to pay that, you can still use Veal and Wyant, which are the two undergrad gyms, and they're like totally fine.
Yep. Next question is, how safe is biking around Cleveland? And do you know if students commute via bike? I've been talking a lot, so I'll let other people if they want to. If not, I can take this because I know plenty of people that bike.
I have a bike here. I don't like ride it to school because I like to walk, but I like just ride it around for fun. And it's really safe. There's like some roads have bike lanes, some don't. So just like be careful, but like I've never had a problem with it.
Yeah. We have a lot of students, classmates that opt to bike to class, especially when the weather's nice. You'll see a lot of people biking to campus. But yeah, a lot of people do. It's, for the most part, I think it's safe. I don't really know a ton because I don't bike. If I did opt to bike to campus, I would be going up a hill, a massive hill at the end of the day, and that sounds like no fun. So yeah. Slightly tangential question. Okay, it looks like Caitlin addressed this one. Is it hard to access the HoloLens since you share that with another person? Yeah, typically a lot of people will choose to go with people that they live with or live near, but like Caitlin said, it's very easy. You can do handoffs at school. I mean, you're required to be at school every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 10 a.m. for IQ. And then also with Garla and things like that, you're going to be at the school anyway. So if you do need to switch with somebody, it's very easy to arrange that just because you will be on campus a couple different times. Yeah.
Do you just like pick a partner? And so are you able to just like choose somebody else near you?
Yep. You just pick a partner. They send out a form at some point and you denote that person, you like put their email and all that, and that's how they organize it all. So totally up to you. What other questions do we have?
From those three gyms you guys mentioned, the Veal, Wyatt, I think, and One-to-One, which ones have basketball courts?
Best what?
Basketball courts. Which ones have like indoor courts?
Veal has basketball courts in it, and that's where all the intramural leagues will be held, and that's where yours truly almost broke his ankle.
Okay, good to know. Thanks.
Yeah, it's actually, and when you get here, this is totally unrelated to housing, but there's group me's, affinity groups, interest groups for just about anything and everything at Case Western. And there's a group me for basketball, for people who like to play basketball. And literally every single week, people are having runs, organizing stuff. And I think that we play most Fridays at the very least, and if not more often throughout the week. So very popular, very common. And there's also other places. I'm not one that usually like organizes the runs. I let other people do that for me, and I haven't gone since my ankle's still a little bit messed up. But yeah, very common. And Arvind, I'm responding to your message about the condo complex. All right, I have some questions here. So I guess let me see how much time we have left. We've got about 7 minutes left. So I will ask this question. We've talked about it a little bit, but I'll let each person talk briefly. Can you talk about the resources that you use? I know we talked about like the finding roommate resource, but in terms of finding the actual housing, can you talk about the resources you used when you actually went about finding where to live in Cleveland and how you made that decision? So feel free to anybody to start.
Yeah, sure. I can kick it off. My search was very quick. So I came off the wait list. So there was a lot of, it was a tight window for me to find a place. So there was a Facebook group that was like all the housing opportunities that were available. And there was a current medical student who was like, hey, I'm looking to fill out a couple of rooms here. And so there was a couple pictures, you know, I felt good enough to send an inquiry after that. I saw that the rent was pretty low. So in combination with the roommate resource to find somebody I like to room with, and then reaching out to that current med student, that's basically what I did. But I know a lot of other students that were a lot more thorough with their search. So maybe someone else can talk about what they did, and maybe they were better about it than I was.
Yeah, so I went to Case for undergrad, so I started looking like a lot earlier than other people just because I like knew I was going to come here and I had like a lot of time to like look around in person, and I knew I wanted to live in the townhouses, but like the issue with them is that they're all individually owned, so there's not like one number you can call. Like each one is like its own thing. So people will post on Facebook like, I'm looking to fill these rooms in a townhouse, or like apartments.com will have like listings. And then I found this one because I knew it was like furnished, and I liked that because I didn't have any furniture. So I like really wanted this one. And then someone else had been asking about it as well. So the guy, like I'd asked first. So he told me I had like 1 week to fill it out, which was like if I wanted it, or otherwise he's going to give it to this other boy who wanted it. So I like, that was the same week I came for the open house. So I ended up meeting 2 girls there, just like in person when I was like at Case, and then we all like went and looked at it, and then we decided to live there. Like it was a really quick turnaround just because someone else like wanted this specific house. But I met the 2 girls like in person, so that was like really convenient for me. But yeah, apartments.com has townhouses, or just like if you just Google like Beacon Place townhomes, some will come up.
Yeah, I haven't done an apartment search in a while, but I'll talk about how I talked about it a little bit. I went through a realtor. I had a buddy, so I'm a non-traditional student, like I mentioned, and I had a buddy that did the same exact program as me that also came to Case and then was buying a place. He has a family, so he was, you know, in touch with a realtor. He connected me with his realtor, and then I ended up finding a different one. Not that his realtor was bad or anything, I just found somebody else. But yeah, it's very easy to find realtors in Case, and if you are in Cleveland, and if anybody is considering buying and wants to get in touch with a realtor, I'm more than happy to connect you with mine or his. But yeah, really, I mean, like I said, I lived on Zillow. I was constantly looking at places, and I would set like my filters and all that sort of stuff to like things that I had. You can do all that on Zillow, and like Zillow also has apartment buildings as well, or just homes that are for rent. And you can set all the things that you want in terms of like must have AC, or don't care if you have AC, must have like this much square footage, so, or whatever it may be, in unit washer dryer, like all those sorts of things you can denote. And I basically just lived on that multiple times a day, every day for a few months, and would send my own recommendations or things that I potentially wanted to look at to my realtor. She would send me things. And yeah, it was just like a constant process of looking at things. And then the home buying process is a little bit more difficult because you have to get the inspection done. You have to like actually go through like the whole closing process, which can be a bit of a headache. And then there was one place that was in the Cedar Lee neighborhood that I looked at, and then a bunch of I was in love with it, and then kind of stopped looking at things for a while. And then the inspection came back and there was a bunch of stuff wrong with it. So yeah, it can be a bit of a headache. So if anybody does need help with that, I'm more than happy to be a resource. I put my email in there already, but feel free to reach out to me if you're having trouble with like home buying. But yeah, I would just encourage you to stay active looking on Zillow or other resources like that. And potentially if you are buying, get in touch with a realtor, because that can really relieve some headaches. And Zillow isn't, what I learned is Zillow isn't always necessarily the most up to date in terms of like what's actually on the market versus not. So. What other questions do people have? We have about 2 minutes left. I saw something in the chat. Is there a specific case med students Facebook page? Yeah, there should be an admitted student page.
Okay, yeah, I'm aware that there's an admitted student page. I was just making sure that that's the same one.
Yep.
Like, or if there's another like housing specific page or not.
Yeah, no, there's the 2027, 2028 School of Medicine page that you got invited to. That will have, and Tom will post all that stuff in there for like stuff that he'll usually post updates in there if something gets uploaded up, Accepted Central, and then Accepted Central is going to be like your kind of like place to go for resources and things like that. Have they given you guys they did like a pamphlet with like statistics about where most students live? Have they shared that with y'all? Okay, good. Awesome. So
Also, I think real quick, there was one question about parking around the city where like closer to where people are living, if there's a lot of street parking available.
perfect. I didn't see that. Where is that one? There is parking around the city. Parking around the city is pretty easy, actually, and most of the street parking downtown is free. So like a lot of the times, like when you're going and parking garages, also being in Cleveland, I mean, it's a big city, but it's like not like it's not like in New York or LA or Chicago. Parking garages are incredibly affordable, especially if you're carpooling with people. They're usually only like $20 for like the night. Cleveland having like a really good theater scene. A lot of people like to go downtown to Playhouse Square to catch like, shows and things like that. We had a group of us that went to Hamilton and a group of us that went to Hadestown, and the parking garage that's actually connected to Playhouse Square is only like $20 for the entire night for the event. Well, sorry about that. Whoever had the question about parking, feel free to reach out to me and I'm more than happy to address that. But yeah, very, very affordable.
Okay. Well, we have a quick 5 we're going to take, and 150, we will start with round 2. So feel free to, if you want to see Finding Housing twice and you want to be graced with Brian's presence again, you can do that. If you want to meet me for the first time, you can do that. If you want to see Allie for the first or second time, you can do that too. All right. So we'll take a quick 5 and we'll resume the panels back again at 150. Irene's got the breakout rooms open. So they'll begin in 5 minutes. Everybody take a quick
Tom,
yeah.
Tom, Irene, can I ask you a quick question? I know.
Go ahead, Brian. Yeah, what's up?
Should I stop recording and then restart for the second one, or should I just keep rolling right now?
I paused it, so if you want to pause it, that's fine. Yeah. Oh, well, that's all right.
And start the recording again, and we'll go ahead and get started. Okay. Thanks for joining, everybody. So this is the Finding Housing panel in Cleveland and Life in Cleveland. So yeah, if you aren't in the right place, feel free to join a different panel, or you can stay here and learn from some of my friends. But my name is Brian Bangs. I'm an M1, originally from West Lafayette, Indiana. I went to Purdue for undergrad, non-traditional student. So yeah, that's my background. I live in Cleveland Heights, like a couple other people on this call. I'm a homeowner. So if anybody has questions about home owning, buying a place, feel free to direct those questions to those of us that will indicate that they are homeowners. But yeah, I'll turn it over. Eric, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Of course, name's Eric, M2, live also in Cleveland Heights, also a homeowner, so any questions in that area. Lived in Cleveland for now, I guess 6 or so years, so if you got any questions about Cleveland in general as well, I could answer whatever I can. Brock, want to give it away?
Yeah, let's do it. Brock Montgomery. I am also a homeowner. I don't live in Cleveland Heights. I live in Shaker, which is a little bit further. And do we say our undergrad too, Brian? What else do you want out of this?
Sure, doesn't matter, whatever you want.
Yeah, I'm from St. Louis, so I am not from Cleveland, only 2 years strong. I did undergrad in St. Louis, University of Missouri, St. Louis, which is a sister school to Mizzou. And I did a post-bac, non-traditional. So I taught for like 4 years and whatnot, and then decided to change over.
Brock is a fellow post-bac. Brock and I did our post-bac at WashU together, and I still credit him as the reason I'm in Cleveland at Case Western. So
Absolutely not. Brian's a beast, but we go back.
Sophie, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Sophie. I'm an M1. I currently rent from Eric. I've been in Cleveland for 1 year, and before this, I was an undergrad at Notre Dame. So I lived in Indiana for 4 years. So yeah, feel free to ask any questions.
And our final panelist.
Hi everyone, my name is Malak. I'm an M1. I guess like my undergrad I was in Illinois, University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. And I currently live at Innova. It's the apartment building across the street, so I rent from there.
Fantastic. Thank you all for being here. So these sessions kind of tend to run themselves. So this is really a time for you all to ask questions about finding housing, finding roommates, if that's what you're into, and really just pick our brains about how we found our current living situation, and recommendations in terms of where to live. You got 45 minutes to do so. If you guys don't have any questions, I can kick us off with some questions to start probing. But it looks like Scout is kicking us off, so I love that. You need to have partner or parent help to buy.
So that kind of depends. Housing in Cleveland depends where you're at. It's really affordable. You can get a home for $150,000, $100,000. So that depends on your credit history, if you have a history of also having a steady income or something. So it depends what your bank approves you for. So that definitely helps if your loan is a little bit lower than what you're looking for. You can have your parents co-sign with you if you want. But yeah, there's definitely a possibility. Down payment for house, if you're going for a conventional, it's usually 20%. FHA, you can go down to 3.5% of the value of the house. So definitely something that you can do. I only worked for like a little bit in college and then my gap year, and it was enough for my down payment. So it's pretty reasonable.
And if you want to convince a parent to co-sign, you could look at the potential house. My house note's like 1,300, and I have 3 bedrooms. Was it like 1,600 square feet? Right. It's nice. I pay probably what some of my classmates are paying for their apartment, if they have a nicer apartment.
The other benefit depends if you're looking even at duplexes or other homes. You can use like your projected income and some of these rentals as also your own income. So like that will increase also your possibility of getting a higher mortgage, what's called approval. So that's, for example, what I did as well. I rent a couple rooms in my house, so that brings the income, and I barely pay anything for my mortgage. I even brought it down from a 30 to a 15 year because of just the rental income. So it's something that's definitely doable.
Someone says, imagine as a student, your loans are not counted as income for your mortgage company.
Yeah, no, they did not. You can use, it wouldn't be wise to. You could definitely use some of, if you're getting extra loans for a down payment, but that would obviously kind of be a little bit late for you because they're a little bit dispersed a little bit later than you probably want to buy a home by. But again, you don't need to buy a house. There's really affordable rental in Cleveland in general, especially Cleveland Heights. You can live for $500 to $700 a month. So there's really reasonable places to live at.
Yeah, Scout, and I'll say that. So I see you're saying you're an MD PhD. I totally to get why you're looking, because we also have I have one of my classmates that's an MD PhD, and he bought a home close to me. I mean, it's a little bit longer time commitment, so it makes sense why you would want to, start having equity in a place, especially if you're going to be here for 7 to 8 years. If it's something you're interested in, I can get you connected with him. So feel free to send me a direct message if you want with your email, and I can plug you guys together and see what makes sense there and have you guys talk. I see another question. Do we need a car for M1/M2 years?
I can provide some insight on this. So I personally knew I wasn't going to have a car my first year here, and so far I have survived. It does make my life a little bit more challenging not having a car. But I mean, just living across the street from the HEC, like where all our classes are, definitely adds to the convenience of it. There are certain activities where you will need a car, like we had to do some stuff at Metro Health, so that's like a 20-30 minute drive. I mean, there I was able to get rides from other classmates. In terms of groceries, like lots of deliveries, I have some good friends too who are really like accommodating and help me out. But it's doable, but there are some challenges. I guess that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah, I would say, kind of piggybacking off of that, I think really most situations, if people know that they're not going to have a car or don't necessarily want to get a car, they're going to opt for a living situation that's a little bit closer to campus so that they can walk. So something like the townhomes, something like Inova, something like Access at Ansel, those are all within walking distance to class at the HEC. Like said, it gets a little bit tricky finding ways to get to the grocery, but other than that, you really don't need transit to downtown is easy. In the first couple of years, usually if you're going to be in a hospital situation, it's going to be like a large group sort of situation. So carpooling would be a very reasonable and easy solution to getting there. I know the rest of us live a little bit further from campus, so driving is kind of a necessity because it's like a 10, anywhere from like 5 to 15 minute commute via car. But yeah, it's kind of what works for you. It's not necessarily required in your first couple of years, but once you do start getting into your third and fourth year and you're kind of on your own independent schedule in terms of rotations, that's when it's going to start kind of being a requirement and a necessity to have some sort of reliable community or transportation. So next question I see is, where do a majority of students live?
Yeah, so most students live either in Cleveland Heights or on the townhomes, or right across from the HEC at Inova, right? So that's like the hot spots. Inova is your premium. I don't live there, so I couldn't talk too much to it, but it's like premium apartments. They're really nice, and it is like you can throw a rock from the HEC and hit it. The townhomes are a short walk. Students walk back and forth all the time. At any given time of the day, you can look out and see a student walking from the townhomes. And Cleveland Heights is like the neighborhood. If you like more of a neighborhood feel, it's just up the street. It's where Eric lives, so he could talk more about Cleveland Heights. And Brian, do you live in Cleveland Heights?
I do, yeah. I
Yeah,
can
we
talk
got-
a little bit about Cleveland Heights, and I know Sophie does as well because Sophie rents from Eric, which this is exactly why I put the two of them on this panel, because I thought it was a unique situation where we have a landlord and a leasee or a renter. But yeah, I do live in Cleveland Heights. A lot of the students live here. I know Tom sent out, or somebody sent out or posted on Accepted Central, like kind of like the pamphlet in terms of like housing, like the most popular housing and living situations in terms of neighborhoods for students, based on like where current students live. The Cleveland Heights area is probably the most popular in terms of like the Coventry neighborhood, Cedar Lee, Cedar Fairmont. Those are all very popular neighborhoods and pretty fun areas. They have a lot of really great dining and bar options and things like that, just like to like also make medical school a little bit more fun and manageable, to have like fun places to go when you're not in class and not on campus. But yeah, we also have plenty of students that nobody in this particular panel, but if necessary, if anybody's thinking about living or looking into living on the west side, I have somebody on call that I could potentially bring into this panel if you're really interested. We have a classmate that lives on the west side that is always trying to convince people to live over there, and I actually think she lives on the near west side, kind of in the Ohio City area, and I think her commute is actually shorter than mine is, living on the east side. So
Then the less lived place is Shaker Heights, where I live, and it's more of the family vibe. I have kids, right? The elementary school's in the center of the neighborhood, and I can walk to Van Aken. If you visited up here, Van Aken's a nice district, a lot of food, study spots, ice cream, and it's the real community vibe.
Yeah, and also just to add a little bit more about Cleveland Heights, it's about like an 8 to 9 minute drive from the HEC. My street has like 10 med students on it. Like it's very safe. There's just a bunch of people here. I am actually moving this year, so I'm looking into things like the West Side, like Ohio City, Tremont and stuff. And that's a little bit more of a commute. It's around 15 to 20 minutes on average. But there's a lot to do there. I really like Ohio City. It kind of reminds me of like a maybe like a smaller, tinier New York. So there's like a lot of range, I think, in Cleveland, and that's something that kind of surprised me when I first came here, especially because like for my undergrad, there were like 3 apartment complexes that were like basically where the students live. But I think in Cleveland, there's just a lot of different places that students can live. So whatever like you want your life to look like you can have it here basically.
Yeah, that's the really unique part about Cleveland is that all the neighborhoods are different vibes, different feels, and kind of different pockets. And you get a really different experience in each one. So like Sophie said, Ohio City on the west side is going to be a little bit more vibrant of like a nightlife and social, like going out scene. East side and Shaker, like Brock said, is definitely more of the community family aspect vibe. And then Cleveland Heights, you kind of got different pockets all kind of throughout. But yeah, you can really make it what you want. I encourage you to do some exploring. There's a couple areas that you might want to consider avoiding. The Huff District, there's some pockets in there that you might want to consider avoiding. And really like between downtown and campus is another area. And then anything really north of campus and Cleveland Heights, I would probably steer away from. Those are areas that potentially start to get a little bit, not a lot of students living there. And safety starts to become a little bit of a concern in some of those areas, but what does parking look like near campus if you're driving every day?
2 lots. You have 3 choices, right? One is lot 82. It's kind of like, I wouldn't say nicer, it's a little bit closer. It's like, I don't know, a 6-minute walk to the Heck, and it's a shuttle. The other is lot 1 something. I don't know. I don't park there, and it's further. And once again, a shuttle ride, and probably like, I don't know. I haven't walked there. I would imagine a 9-minute walk. I don't know. Anybody park it? That is a lot.
Yeah, lot 14 is about I'd say anywhere from, depending on the day, if it's bad weather, like 9 to 12-minute walk. It's not
They
bad.
could do a new parking lot for your year. Who knows? Case does strange stuff. And then the third option is just don't pay for parking and park on the street and risk running to your car and getting a ticket. Or you can park at CVS and risk getting towed, but you will get towed.
I don't recommend doing that. I did that in undergrad at a McDonald's, and I came back after being gone for 15 minutes and my car was gone. That was not fun. But yeah, there is 2-hour parking on the street. And especially since some people choose to do it, especially because IQ is only 2 hours and lectures aren't required. Some students don't go to lecture. So they'll, test their luck and park on the 2-hour parking on the street close to the Heck, and then rush back to their car after IQ and try to leave. But yeah, if you're somebody who has high anxiety like me with that sort of stuff, I recommend getting a parking pass in one of the lots. But yeah, parking is very accessible and very easy to find.
If you're getting it, get it quick too. Don't procrastinate on your parking because the lots fill up.
Lot 82 particularly fills up. Usually 14 will be easy to get into, but like Brock said, that's the one that's just a little bit further away. But the shuttle system to and from campus from both those lots is pretty reliable. And Jerry, the guy who for the most part is the bus driver, he dishes out his phone number like it's candy, and you can hit him up whenever you need a ride, and he'll be there within a couple minutes. So he's the man. He takes care of us. I see a question about the housing market, property taxes being high. Brock and Eric, is there, for those that rent out rooms, so I guess Eric, is the rental income enough to cover the cost of property taxes with adequate budgeting throughout the year, or is that still something that you have, or is that still something that you have to account for out of the pocket every year?
So yeah, like probably it's a little bit higher than other places. I think we're at 3,200 per 100K. So yeah, it is a big chunk of what you're making if you add that insurance and stuff, but there's enough wiggle room to make enough money if you're renting out your home and you're in a 30-year mortgage. Right now with interest rates being a little bit higher, I'm not too sure how easy it is. Like, I don't know how it's going to be now. I'm having a hard time finding houses that are a good price, take into consideration everything, but it's very easy to break even. At least making money right now, a little bit harder, especially if you're doing your own work. I don't know how handy you guys are, but if you do your own work, yes, it's easier. You won't be spending so much in the small fixes. The houses in Cleveland Heights are at least 100 years old. The newer ones are about 90. So stuff does pop up, but it's still a really good place to invest in. You'll make enough to be comfortable with the home. But yeah, the other thing is probably don't look into homes over $300,000 to $400,000 in that area, just because there's not a lot of places that have enough rooms that warrant that. They're just gonna be fancier homes inside, and you're not gonna make the rental income off of that. Rental income, they don't really care that much of how nice the house is inside. You're probably gonna get a maximum of $900 to $800 a room. Or for 2 rooms. I rent out usually an office space and a bedroom for $750 a month, and then does not include utilities. So you can get an idea of, based on that, how much you can make. A single bedroom on a house, you can probably rent out between $500 and $650. But yeah, if you have specific questions on all this stuff, you can send me email. I'll put my number there at the end of it, and I'm happy to talk about how I at least manage the properties. But yeah.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate that. Next question I see here. Do any students, and this might be more targeted, I don't know how many of us M1s know M3s and M4s, but I don't think any of us have started our clinicals, but do any students try to make M3, M4 work without a car? Seems hard unless you're doing all your rotations at the same place. Not sure how viable biking and transit are. Yeah, that's definitely what I heard, but I don't know if anybody has experience with any M3s and M4s that are currently doing that without a car. I don't necessarily know how you would do it, but
So I don't know any M3s or M4s that are doing it. I also don't know everybody's car situation. I wouldn't recommend trying it. You don't want to play around with your third year. It's like, and you don't know all your rotations up front. So you don't have a schedule where you know, I'm going to be at Metro this month. This month I'm going to be here. It's a roll and release of where you go. And this is like phenomenon of the first 2 years of med school feels like undergrad in a cohort, right? So you get to know everybody. You see them because of proximity, and then your last block hits and everyone disperses, and you only see people who you go out your way to see. So if you saw that person every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and on Friday they would give you a ride to the grocery store because you're in the same spot, that's not a thing anymore, right? So now you're more on your own. So I would not try to push M3 and M4 with no car.
thank you, Brock. Okay, I see people are interested in the west side, so I just texted my friend who lives on the west side, seeing if she can hop on, but we'll address these other questions now. A fun question. If you could re-choose where you lived M1, M2, where would you choose neighborhood and type of housing and why? Also, maybe how does that influence your choices for M3, M4? I'll say I love my place. I love my situation. I wouldn't redo it any other way. I love my condo and I love the community I live in. Other folks.
I'm gonna say the same. My Shaker Heights is fire. I love Shaker Heights. I love walking in my neighborhood, jogging in my neighborhood. Only thing I don't like is the deer everywhere, but that's a Cleveland problem. And I love Van Aken. So amazing. Wouldn't change anything, and I won't.
You know, I love where I live. Bunch of all around, a bunch of bars, supermarket across the street, good coffee shop to study. I like the fact that, I don't know, we're around like other families, feels more safe. You have a backyard, compared to maybe living closer to campus where not only some of the areas a little bit more unsafe, but there's not as much to do. You need to get your car anytime you're gonna go hang out with friends somewhere or something. So I definitely like Cleveland Heights area quite a bit.
Yeah, I agree. One thing that I didn't really realize coming out of college was how much I'd value like the separation from school and home. I initially wanted to live closer to campus, like 2 minutes away, but I think having that has improved my mental health greatly. So now I'm like all about living in Cleveland Heights.
Hopping off that, I actually like where I live. I mean, I'm definitely paying for the location, but being able to leave for class like at 7:50 is so nice. And just the extra sleep, like I'm paying for 8 hours of sleep a night. So that's really nice. Innova's a nice apartment building. There's a good management system. Well, actually it's not good recently, but it used to be good. So I would say like I like where I live, and I'm probably going to live here next year too. And then kind of to address, I just want to go back to that car question. For M3 and M4, it's absolutely impossible to go without a car. So, I mean, that's already something that needs to be considered. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you. That's helpful to know. Thank you all for addressing that question. For those that are curious about the West Side, we have our resident West Side expert, Caitlin Lestera, has just joined us. She lives in the near West Side. So folks that are curious, I don't know if you had specific questions Caitlin is also from the Cleveland area originally. So if you want to just unmute or drop specific questions in there, feel free to go ahead. Or we can just turn it over to Caitlin to just talk.
Yeah, so there's one question in the chat. What are some of the good areas to live on the west side? So we're going to start by saying that I do have bias. I currently live in Ohio City, and it is absolutely phenomenal. My little pitch for why living on the west side is worth it, kind of similar to Sophie, having separation from school is really important. And it's way easier to work a commute into your like every day, like, okay, I have to leave 5 minutes earlier than I would normally, than to work a commute into, oh, hey, this random cool little thing is going on, and now I have to drive super far to get to it. Like, it's really nice when you are, we're grad students now. It's not just we go to school and then we go home. Like, school is kind of our life. And so to be living in a place where there's kind of more going on, there's more, you're closer to the action, I think is great. Like I said, I live in Ohio City. Ohio City is, I would say, kind of like the Williamsburg of Cleveland. There's some really funky restaurants, some really funky bars. It's a very up and coming neighborhood, and there are a lot of apartment buildings that just got put up. So the building that I live in now was just built last year, and then there's 3 more that literally just opened within 2 minutes of where I live. Tremont is another really cool area that has some phenomenal restaurants. It's more residential than like apartment building based. So if you're looking to rent a house or to look for a townhouse sort of situation, or even to buy, I would recommend Tremont. If you're thinking you want to be like further west side, Gordon Square is cool. Also a very funky neighborhood. It's a little bit less young than Ohio City is, kind of more like 30s to 40s-ish people. And then Lakewood is also a really good area for lots of young people. Scout, Lakewood is one of the like highest populations for LGBTQ, tons of like really cool LGBTQ friendly bars, just like very open, very friendly. Also, honestly, like Gordon Square too has a lot.
Yeah, my partner lives in Lakewood, and she lives literally right next door to Twist, which is a very popular LGBTQ bar. And she said she ran into like half the cast, or I guess people that were on RuPaul's Drag Race from a couple seasons ago. So very popular place.
Lakewood is also just like a sick area in general. Like, it's very
Really
cool.
A little bit further away though, but also very cool. Other questions? We're seeing some people respond, which I appreciate in the chat. So if your question hasn't been addressed in the chat, feel free to unmute yourself or do the raise hand function, and we can get any questions you have answered.
I have a question. So this is more about the west side. I know that Tremont and Ohio City like tend to be like really kind of like popping neighborhoods. Do you find it to be like more like the rent to be more expensive compared to the east side when you like ask around with your other friends?
Yeah, so it totally depends on what building you live in. If I'm being completely honest, my building that I'm in is more on the expensive side, but they have just put up a couple new buildings that are much more reasonable. So those are called Waterford Bluffs and Trio. If you want like specifics, additionally, like I like don't know a ton about the rental housing market, but I do know that like there are reasonably priced houses to rent like in this area, more so in Tremont than Ohio City. Ohio City prices for houses tend to get like a little bit up there. But honestly, I would say as well that a lot of the more expensive buildings, they're expensive because they have those additional amenities. So like my building has like a rooftop pool, and they're always having parties for us and like blah, blah, blah. So it just, again, it like depends on your value. Like I really loved my building. There's like this popular coffee shop that literally the entire school goes to study at, and it's physically in my building. So that's like really nice to connect with people and study. But if you want something on the cheaper end, but still to be in Ohio City or Tremont or whatever, you can find it.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I would definitely agree with everything Caitlin just said, and kind of the same point that she mentioned as well as Brock. It's important to know your values in terms of like what you want or what you kind of expect in a living situation in terms of how far and like what you want in your situation. But yeah, typically things will be a little bit more expensive on the west side. It's kind of one of the I looked there initially and things were a little bit outside of my price range in terms of buying there. So that's why I partially didn't opt into or end up living on the west side, but still possible, very possible.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Apartments are somewhat easier to find. So it feels like apartments are somewhat easier to find. How did you go about finding townhouses to rent / buy? Anybody want to address how they found their current living situation or what resources they used?
Yeah, so I answered it over there, but it's definitely a little bit harder to see because the ads aren't as blatant as an apartment building. But there's a couple of Facebook groups you can join. You can join your own class Facebook group if you haven't done that yet. If not, the one I put up there, Case Western Reserve, Housing Sublet, and Roommates. I know a couple other people that rent around Cleveland Heights will put their homes up there. If not, also feel free to just reach out to me and I can send you a couple other things that a couple of my friends are renting out. But yeah, it's definitely also Zillow. If you go on Zillow and you just click that rent, that purple tag on top and just hover around, you'll find some. They tend to be a little bit more expensive than what you find on the Facebook market stuff, but you'll still find something over there.
Yeah, people are constantly putting ads on the Facebook page, especially for those. It's very common for people to live with people outside of their classes. And sometimes when you have an M4 that's moving out after they graduate, it's very common that people will put a room up for rent and post it on the Facebook group for incoming students or current students to potentially consider. But other students, go ahead. Talk about how you found your places. And actually, I know, Sophie, I think you found yours on the Facebook page, so that kind of answers that. But Zillow's common. In the previous panel, we had people looking at apartments.com. That's another option. I've used that previously in Chicago when I lived there, when I was looking for places to rent. For homeowners, I know Brock used a realtor and he connected me with his. I also used a realtor. So that's kind of helps make it a little bit easier, especially when you don't live in town. And they can help find homes and things within your price range and that fit like the bill in terms of what you're looking for in a home. So if you are buying, I would definitely recommend using a realtor because it takes a lot of the stress off yourself. Does that answer your question? Hopefully. Cool. We got, let's see, how much time do we have left? Still have about 13 minutes left. So other questions?
Yeah, something that was on my mind. I've heard like a bunch of different answers when I've talked about this before with students. Where do you think med students do the most socializing and like what parts of the city do you think attract the most social work? Not social work. Yeah. Well, I just mean like, maybe it could be nightlife, maybe it could be just like, good restaurant area. I'm sure there's a huge diversity of it, but are there any particular hotspots?
I think it entirely depends on what you're interested in. It's a hard question to answer just because everybody has different interests and things like that. Because there is a lot to offer across the city, especially with a lot of the different neighborhoods we've talked about. Each neighborhood kind of offers a different feel. If you are looking for more of that nightlife and things like that, I think Ohio City, kind of around where Caitlin lives, a lot of that's very popular there. You're going to get a lot of fun bars. I think I don't know how many clubs there are, but like the main night day club is in the Flats. So that's like closer to the Ohio City West Side. There's breweries in the Tremont area. There's also breweries on the East Side. There's great restaurants all across the city. And then there's, metro parks, state parks, all surrounding the entire metro area. So like, it depends what you define as like social and like what your idea of like having a good time is. So I think that's hard to answer for, you know, an individual, because it depends on like what you kind of are looking for in terms of having a good time.
Yeah, what Brian's kind of talking to is every part of Cleveland has its own character, right? Like Shaker Heights, the character of Shaker Heights is definitely a family-friendly area. Van Aken is very kid-friendly. There's oftentimes farmers markets there. You know, there's an ice cream spot in a rock where kids climb all over. The food is fantastic. Cleveland Heights, you get a different variety of food, and it's a different kind of fantastic. So I often go to Cleveland Heights if I'm feeling like, you know, I want a fusion or just a little more variety in restaurants. They have a really big variety. And then I go over to the West Side if I want, like, I don't know, I'm a big foodie, right? So they have a food restaurant that I love over there. They have Brassica and they have the beach, which is, you know, you'll be like, oh, beach. But if you go to the beach here, it's respect, right? It's a lake, but it's respect. So everything has its own character and it's very diverse in what it has to offer.
Yeah, there are a lot of different venues. Actually, I just spent not this weekend, but last weekend, both Saturday and Sunday night, I was at a different show each night. I saw John Mayer at the at Rocket Mortgage, which was a very interesting and intimate set list and concert, but at a massive venue where the Cavs play. And then the Agora is like a really historical music venue. A lot of really like rock and roll greats like Jimi Hendrix, Clapton, all those guys have gone through there, and I saw a different band there. So great concert venues, and those are all. And then there's an amphitheater on the west side that's like right on the river as well. And actually there's also an outdoor music festival in the middle of the winter called Bright Winter, which I went to and was a blast. And that's like right in like the aquarium, or I think it's like right in this like parking lot right on the river, and you see the skyline in the background. It's a really cool spot. But
also Cleveland's really weird, right? So like it might be on the west side, but it still takes me 25 minutes to get there, and it takes me about 18 minutes to get to campus. It makes no sense, and it's how the highways are set up. So nothing's further than like 25 minutes, and I don't get it. It's a time warp.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, because it just sounds like there's so many different places you can be and be close to cool stuff. That was what I was trying to get at with the question. And it's gratifying to hear that's absolutely the case, and people take advantage of areas all across the city.
Yeah,
I think it does also depend if you want to create friendship groups outside of the med school, because then different areas are going to be better for that. So like Brock was saying, like Cleveland Heights, Shaker Heights, very family friendly. So if you're looking to create relationships of that nature, then you kind of want to position yourself to be in a place where you can find that. Or if you are like a non-traditional that's been out for a couple years and like you want to have your med school friends, but you also kind of want to find people maybe closer in your age group, then like the Tremont, Ohio City area is great. All young professionals over here. Yeah, so you like, and all of us are available for advice if you are like trying to figure out what niche you feel you might best fit in.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it depends on what you want to spend your time doing outside of school, and like where you want to kind of position yourself to like, you know, make it easier on yourself. And I think a lot of people choose their housing option to like what they think is going to be the best for like their mental and emotional well-being, because you don't necessarily, you want to live somewhere where you're happy and comfortable, and med school is a grind, so you want to make sure you're going to home to a place where you feel at home.
And you can always move. It's okay to move.
Yeah.
I know someone who's moved once every year and is going to move again for third year, right? So they're going to move 3 times in 3 years, and it's okay.
Other questions? You can ask us questions about life in Cleveland too. I know we've been talking about that a little bit with like the concert scene, and like Caitlin said, a lot of the fun nightlife stuff that she does on the west side. Any questions about life in Cleveland? I mentioned there's breweries all across the city and stuff like that, and the theater scene here is great. Playhouse Square is a massive theater district. All of the traveling companies from Broadway usually make a stop in Cleveland. We have a group of people in my class that have gone to see Hamilton, as well as Hadestown, and I literally just got a text asking if people want to go see Six on August 9th. So like always great shows coming through Cleveland if you're into Broadway and musical theater, which I am very much a fan of. Where do people like to work out? Folks, I see a lot of people at the gym, so I'll let other people talk about that if they want to.
I think most of us all work out at the one here that the undergrad has. It's called 1-2-1. I guess mostly grad students that go there right now. It's paid, what is it, 20 some bucks a month? So it's not too expensive. It's right on the undergrad campus and right across from the undergrad gym, but it's mostly grad students. I guess the undergrads can pay money if they want to, so there's a few undergrads as well that go there. It's not huge. There is 5 platforms, 4 benches, and then a bunch of cardio stuff, but it gets the job done. Summer's a little bit tough in there because their AC kind of sucks in the weight room, but in general, it's pretty good. There are other gyms nearby. You got Planet Fitness, you got Lifetime that's a little bit further away. There's one CrossFit gym that's 25 minutes away. So there's definitely other places to go. It's just this one's really convenient, especially if you live in the Cleveland Heights area. It's on the way home. So yeah.
And it
I-
opens at 5:30. So if you want to go before IQ, you can. Especially when IQ starts at 8. I mean, you gotta get up, get there, and there's a group who does. They have showers, so that's good, and it's included in tuition unless you opt out.
Love it. Yeah, I'm also a 1-to-1 guy. I used to be an early riser, but no such thing anymore because yeah, it's hard. But yeah, they have showers. All the group fitness class Vanessa mentioned, all the group fitness classes are included in the cost. And you get parking with your membership, which there's a parking lot there. They'll validate your parking. So it's also great because a lot of times you have a number of reasons why you may need to go. It's right across the street from Rainbow Babies. It's right across the street from the old medical school. A lot of times students will choose to park in that garage, walk into the 1-to-1 fitness area or center on their way over to Rainbow Babies or the old medical school, get a parking validation ticket and walk over to do whatever they need. And that ticket will get you free parking in there for 3 hours. And it's a great option. And also, as a part of your tuition, you have free access to Veal, which is the undergrad gym. And so you can park in that same gym, the same lot, walk into 1-to-1, get a pass, and they're right next to each other. And then you can walk over to Veal, play basketball. You can swim over at that place because 1-to-1 does not have basketball courts nor a swimming pool, but you can do both those things at Veal and use the parking garage that's included in the 1-to-1 membership. But yeah, I know there's also, I think there's a Planet Fitness kind of in University Circle close to campus. So I know a couple people that choose to go there. But I would say a predominant number of people choose to go to 1-to-1 just because of the convenience. Like Eric said, it's easy. And there's a bus stop right outside 1-to-1 that'll drop you off. There's a bus route from the HEC that'll drop you off right outside of 1-to-1 Rainbow Babies, the old med school. So it's easy to get there from school. Yeah, and Brock is a big mindfulness. He's the leader of the mindfulness group. So if he does yoga at 1-to-1, I trust yoga at 1-to-1.
Don't trust me with yoga. Don't trust me with yoga.
Patrick, yeah, swimming pools. There is one in Veal, I believe. I should be more of a swimmer. My dad was a collegiate swimmer, but did not get that. I don't know if it's a gene, but I know there are swimming pools in Veal that some students like to use. Or you could weather the waves of, what is it, Lake Erie that we're on?
Yep.
See what that's like. Like a Seinfeld episode when Kramer jumps into the East River and starts swimming against the East River currents. Other questions? I'm assuming that LOL is to my Seinfeld reference. And if you get my Seinfeld reference, Joyce, you just became my favorite person. Yeah, I think we have 3 minutes left. Last time we got cut off, but I guess we can just kind of talk about, I'll turn it over to each of the panelists to just kind of talk, Eric and Brock, about your experiences in your first couple of years of med school, what that's been like, what you like to do for in your free time. And then what's up?
You want to have any non-housing related questions?
Brock, talk about your free time.
Yeah, talk about your free time. Talk about what you like to do in your free time and what you do for fun.
I'm different. I got kids, right? So I'm imagining most of the panelists don't have kids. So right. I'll let you youngins take it.
I think cases is very beneficial in the way the curriculum set up. So you have exams every 10 weeks sometimes, and there's not a lot of like required stuff. compared to I think other medical schools. So it really allows you to do a lot of stuff if you're interested in, for example, I have a job on the side that I do, which I enjoy doing. So I have more than enough time for that. People that enjoy research, they can do that as well. So extracurricular wise, I think it's a great place to go. Yeah, on the side, I do, I have enough time to like spend the weekends at a fire department a little bit. So. We're leaving, but yeah, no, Case is great. I think, if you guys are, I don't know, is anyone here already selected yes for Case, or are we starting to sell this to you guys?
Combination of both.
Combination. Okay, so yeah, no, compared to other places, amazing. People are great. If you're worried about like, oh, people are not going to be social, they're not going to be enough fun things to do, you're wrong. In general, they do a great job finding a really good group of people. You'll make great friends. And there's so much to do in Cleveland. Winter, maybe not as much, but that's good. So you can study more. But yeah, no, overall Case is amazing. So, come over here and hopefully we'll see you guys, in a few months.
Yeah. But there is a music festival in the middle of winter and it's a great time and I recommend it. Yeah,
Yeah.
Case is great. There's something to do for everybody. Yeah, I strongly recommend it. I've been in the Midwest most of my whole life, but at the same time, I lived in Chicago. So I went from a city where there was literally everything to here, and I have not been let down.
For whoever was in the transition to Cleveland panel, thank you all for coming. Sorry we ran a little over. Thanks
Yeah, I
to
know I got cut off at the end too. Just want to say thank you.
Let's see. All right, well, it's 2:41, so let's go ahead and get started. We'll start out by first of all, thank you for joining. This is the panel specifically for finding housing and life in Cleveland. So any questions you have about how any of us found our current housing situations, where we live, places to avoid, or just generally speaking, what life is like in Cleveland, what people do for fun, what sort of fun things there are to do. There's a lot, spoiler. But yeah, any questions that you may have, feel free to send them our way. We're going to be more than happy to address this. We have 5 students that are currently medical students at Case on the panel, including myself. So we'll go ahead and introduce everybody. I'll start. My name is Brian Bangs. I'm an M1. I'm one of the student committee on admission reps here today. Going to be facilitating this for everyone. I'm originally from West Lafayette, Indiana. What Dr. Amy referred to as a bent arrow, non-traditional student, had a career in consulting for a few years before coming to med school. And I currently live in the Cleveland Heights community. I'm a homeowner. I have a condo here right across the street from like the Severance Circle area. There's a couple other medical students that live kind of catty corner to me. And then there's another medical student that lives in my same building, lives on the floor above me. So yeah, good option. But I'll let Tatiana, if you want to go ahead next, introduce yourself and we'll get things rolling.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. I'm Tatiana, like Brian said. I'm also an M1. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I live at Inova Apartments, which is right across from the HEC. So happy to take any questions about that.
Parshva.
Hey everyone, my name is Parshva. I'm a first year student as well. I live in Cleveland Heights. I live in a 2-unit home, and I'm originally from Michigan. What else did we cover in the intro? Anything else?
No.
I think
Okay,
that's all I said, yeah.
cool. Yeah, so that pretty much covers it.
Thanks, Parshva. Rachel.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel. I am also a bent arrow like Brian. I'm from Cleveland, well, the greater Cleveland area. And I actually worked at Case for a very long time prior to medical school. And I live downtown. I live right by Playhouse Square. So it's really fun, I think. And first year student as well. I think that's the only thing I didn't say.
Thank you, Rachel. Lorena.
Hi, I'm Lorena. I'm also a first year. I took 2 years. I'm originally from Superior, Wisconsin, did call undergrad in Madison. I took 2 years where I worked as a CNA, and now I'm here. I moved with my partner, so we started out in a apartment building kind of close to the HEC. It was on 101st Street, but we actually just moved, so now I am in Lakewood on the Gold Coast, which is beautiful.
Thank you, Lorena. And Luke.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name's Luke, also an M1. Been to Arrow as well, like a few of my peers. So I was in the military, so I moved a bunch. Originally, I'm from Wisconsin as well, but coming to you live from Raleigh, North Carolina. Married, 2 kids, and I'm a homeowner as well. I live out in Northfield, Ohio, which is it's a little bit of a commute. I don't think anybody lives quite as far out as I do. But it's a good area, and I'm happy to talk more about some of that stuff too.
Well, thank you all for being here. So yeah, this is just a chance for y'all to ask us questions. These panels tend to run themselves, so we can just turn it over to y'all. Feel free to raise your hand, just unmute yourself. You can use the raise hand function, or just unmute yourself and ask your question, or you can drop a question in the chat. Whatever you guys want, this time is yours to ask us questions, pick our brains, and learn as much as you possibly can or want about finding housing and living in Cleveland. So,
hey, thank you all for doing this. Luke, so I also have 2 kids. I'm curious how you handle that commute and study time and everything else. Thank you all for doing this. It's super helpful.
Yeah, so I mean, as far as the commute, I mean, for me, it's 30 minutes, which I think was like on the outer edge of doable. So yeah, I mean, it's not terrible. And with like, so where I live, there's a good interstate system, so that helps. What was the other part of your question?
So just if the commute, so 30 minutes is not horrible. When you said far out, I was thinking like you have an hour commute or something, or maybe 2 hours. But and then parking, do you have trouble, like, do you ever get stuck in traffic or have a hard time parking and end up being late, or is that just not an issue there? I don't know. We've been in Cleveland, like visiting friends, but we've never dealt with it on a day-to-day basis. So those sort of things too, if you end up being a commuter, like how are you dealing with that? Is that a problem or not?
Okay, yeah. So a couple things. Cleveland is a really good size, I think. It's in about 30 minutes you can get, I mean, outside of even like the densely packed suburbs. So, you know, like I said, it takes me 30 minutes, and I don't live in an area that's super densely populated. So, you know, I think that within that kind of circumference there, you can definitely find something that works. A lot of everything is concentrated up towards the lake. As far as parking, and a lot of people, even people that live in the city or whatever, this is going to be the case for them as well. There's several parking lots, I think 2, maybe 3, that you just buy a parking permit for as a case student. They go by the names Lot 14 and Lot 82 are the ones that people commonly use the most. And I personally have almost never had a problem with parking. They have a shuttle that runs back and forth. We have an awesome shuttle driver. His name is Jerry. Everybody loves him. And the parking, I mean, the permits are, I would think, you know, like for city parking, it's fairly affordable. I don't remember what they run for a parking permit, but I've never been upset about the cost of parking.
Yeah, parking permits in the lots are around $250 a semester. Yeah, so pretty affordable. Gosh, I'm gonna have to tell Jerry. He's gotten a shout out on every single one of these panels so far today.
Yeah, and the parking lots are, I mean, they're like right around the block from school, so they're not bad.
And those parking lots are only 82 is a little bit closer. It's probably about a 5 to 6 minute walk, and then lot 14 is probably 8 to 10 minutes. But Jerry dishes out his phone number like it's candy. So I would imagine most students probably have his phone number, and he's literally just like, shoot me a text whenever you need a ride and I'll be there. And he does not lie. He does that. And he will pick you up right from your car, especially if it's like a cold or rainy day. He'll drop you off right outside your car. He's the man. Yeah, they take good care of us.
That's super nice.
Yeah. But I will also say, adding to Luke's kind of answer, the nice thing about Cleveland, it's a driving city. And by that, I mean, like, you kind of need a car to, or you don't necessarily need one, but like to get everywhere, you kind of have to like Uber or drive. The public transit here is a little bit unreliable. There is public transit. It's easy to get from like University Circle to downtown, but other places it's a little bit more difficult. But it really only takes about 20 to 30 minutes to get just about anywhere, even within like the suburbs. Like, I live on the east side. I have a buddy that just moved to Brecksville from high school, and it takes me about 30 minutes to get to him. And it takes me about, my partner lives on the west side, so complete opposite side of the city. And it takes me about 20 to 25 minutes to get to her. So very easy. Yeah. And also, I know you said you have 2 kids. We have another person that was just on the panel previously. He also has 2 kids. He lives in Shaker Heights. He loves it. He chose that community because of the family feel. It's a little bit closer to campus. But yeah, he lives in Shaker and cannot speak highly enough about it. So that might also be another place that you can look into. So
Perfect. Thank you both.
yeah.
I also know someone with 2 kids, just to build off, and he lives in Parma, and he really likes Parma too. It's another about 30-minute commute, just in case you're browsing around.
Oh, thanks, Lorena. Thank you.
Yeah, we have a lot of Ben Arrows and a lot of family people with children in our class and across classes. So it's a very common thing. You won't be alone, and there will be people that you can rely on to help give you some information to make the best decision for you. So
yeah, that's nice. Yeah, I think yeah, that was one of my things, is I'm going to be the the only one who has, or something. But no, there's a lot of great stories here. Everybody has wonderful stories.
Yeah, absolutely. I see a question from Matt. Seems very specific for me, so I'll quickly address it. But transitioning from consulting back to academics, I did a post-baccalaureate program at WashU before coming to medical school. So I was a management and marketing degree in undergrad. And I kid you not when I say the science classes I took were completely blow-off classes. I took a class called Insect Friend or Foe, and I had no interest in pursuing a degree in medicine when I was an undergrad. My dad's a surgeon, my mom's a nurse, and I was like, that's not for me. And then I matured a little bit, and I was like, priorities change. So I did a post-bac program, and that's kind of what helped get me like reintegrated into learning how to study. And I will say my experience in consulting and like having a career prior to that, prior to coming back, like I matured a lot and like got really, really intentional about how I spent my time and like time management and prioritization. And the way you study in medical school is completely different from the way you study in undergrad. And I would say it's way more similar to actually working than how I studied in undergrad. So that was super helpful. And I really don't find it all that difficult. I find managing my time and approaching my schoolwork in medical school to not be as stressful. I won't say as some of my peers, but not as stressful as I would have thought it would be, just because I have that experience in consulting and having a career prior to this before coming here. So I didn't think it was all that difficult. I think just like the learning new information at a constant, pretty extensive clip was overwhelming at first, but you get used to it pretty quickly. The M1 transition with block 1 is very, very helpful. I will say that, but yeah. Might be too specific, but how's the management at Inova? This sounds like a question for you, Tatiana. I had trouble funding reviews, and they changed management recently. So Tatiana, you want to talk about management at Inova?
Yeah, for sure. So they did just recently change management. I can only speak to my experience there. Obviously, there are a lot of students that live there, but I have not had great experiences with the management there, especially since they've changed. Like, communication has dropped a lot. They haven't been they're super responsive to like requests for maintenance or things like that. I'm not the primary name on our lease, so my roommate gets all the emails. So I'm like kind of out of the loop completely in terms of my apartment. But yeah, so I will say the management has not been fantastic. I think the main draw to Inova is its proximity to the HEC. I also know a lot of people that have lived there for multiple years, so I could be like a special case in not loving the management. I will say that is the reason that I'm leaving Inova this coming year. So very short answer and unfortunately negative, but gotta be real for you guys,
And that's unfortunately, we had a student on this panel previous to this, and I don't have any experience with Inova as well, but she also mentioned that it was not bad, and then more recently when they did switch, it dropped off a little bit, which is unfortunate because it is literally within throwing distance. Like, you can throw a rock and hit Inova from the HEC. Proximity is great, but I will say, like, I would look into it, and yeah, talk to people like Tatiana who currently live there who are experiencing it. But you will have issues with any sort of big building like that. You're going to have management issues. Like I lived in an absolute building, outside and inside looked great when I lived there in St. Louis for my postbac, but the management was horrendous. So you can have horror stories like that for sure across the board. But
correct me if I'm wrong, but Innova's a little bit more expensive than some of the surrounding areas, right? Like I think you pay for that convenience, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's like pretty comparable to the other big buildings that are here, like One and Artisan that just popped up. I can't really speak to places outside of walking distance to the Heck, but I like when you are able to walk to the Heck, I think it does shoot the price up a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Other questions? Ask us anything about housing or life in Cleveland. I can also ask some questions. In the spirit of staying on housing, can we have some of our panelists talk about the resources that they used when they went about finding housing in Cleveland? So where did you turn to? Not all at
I can
once.
start, I guess. So Case sends out a lot of resources when it comes to like finding housing. So I definitely like looked at those things. They sent out like a big spreadsheet and I kind of filtered through what I was like prioritizing in terms of housing. And then I found my roommate through like their roommate matching spreadsheet. And to be quite honest, she kind of like took the wheel on it. I was pretty flexible. Like I didn't have too many opinions. There were a few buildings, like I knew I wanted to be within walking distance to the Heck. So that was like my thing, but it was kind of like a group effort once I found my roommate where we thought would be best. But yeah, definitely like using Case's resources was extremely helpful because I could see like, oh, I want in-unit laundry, or I want within like this distance to the Heck or this price. And then there's also like comments from students that have lived in those places and they're like very genuine. So I found that very helpful.
Yeah, I also pretty much used the resources that Case put out. And then I used like Apartment Finder and apartments.com when I was kind of hunting around because I also wanted to be close to the Heck when I started. And I found that the comments from students were like the most helpful thing because there were some on there where you would have never got that from reading the reviews. But then you see someone in there like, I had mice and management did nothing. And I'm like, stay back. I don't want to go there. So I would recommend looking at that.
Yeah, I used the resources like everyone else as a starting point, and then I also used Zillow as well to look for different places. I got lucky in a way where my roommate was in Cleveland, so he could go check out any potential options and see like if it matched up to what was presented online. That worked out pretty well. Yeah, I think student comments also help if you aren't able to really go check it out.
Yeah, for those. Go ahead, Luke.
I was gonna say for an actual house, I just use Zillow pretty much.
Yep, I also use Zillow a lot. I also bought, like Luke, like I mentioned, I use Zillow, but I also utilized a realtor. So just kind of took some of the stress off of not being in Cleveland and having their opinion as well, since they know the area a little bit better. So if you are somebody looking into buying, might be worth looking into a realtor. Howard Hanna is one of the realtor companies that is very popular around here. They have kind of a hold on just about all homes and properties in Cleveland. So you could look into Howard Hanna. But yeah. Any other thoughts on that about how you found your housing situation, what resources you used? I think we've kind of covered most of them. A lot of times with, especially with the Facebook group that you all are in with admitted students, a lot of times it's very common for students to live with other students from different classes. So sometimes if there's a current situation where an M1, M2, M3 is living with an M4 and they're leaving Cleveland for their residencies, when they move out, it's common that those posts will get put to the Facebook group and they'll be looking for a roommate. So I would keep your eye on that. Because sometimes those rooms open up for rent, and it's just individual rooms if you're not necessarily super picky on who you're living with and want to live with other medical students. But That's also a common way to go about it. So I will go ahead. So it looks like Megan, there's an entire panel going on right now, actually, too, about transition to Cleveland, where they're talking a lot about that. So we can quickly address. I don't know if anybody came from warm weather climates. Yeah, I didn't really select this panel based on like where people were coming from, because there is an entire panel right now going on about transition to Cleveland. But in terms of getting around campus, I can address that. Cleveland being a city that does get a decent amount of snow here and there, they're very good about taking care of it. Usually when snow starts to come down, there will be plows on the road pretty immediately, getting the snow off and salting the roads to make sure they're drivable. So while you are going to experience a little bit of a delay in any sort of inclement weather, because people are going to be driving a little bit slower, it's pretty I guess predictable in terms of like it will be taken care of. It's pretty like assumed that it's going to be taken care of for the most part. But yeah, we'll slow you down a little bit. And obviously in any city, you're going to get an idiot that drives like a maniac in snow and ice. But yeah, usually it's pretty manageable and pretty predictable. Thank you for answering the gym question. Veal is the free gym on campus. 1-to-1. You can get parking there, and that's also a very common option for a lot of grad students. I think that's where most of us opt to go for working out. We also have a handful of students that use Planet Fitness. I believe there's a Planet Fitness in University Circle. And then if you're into yoga, different yoga studios, things like that, Pure Barre, there's bar classes, things like that. I know those are options as well. But yeah, I would say most of the students choose to do 1-to-1, which there is an attached parking garage. And the nice thing that I found with that as well is that Rainbow Babies, as well as the old medical school, are right across the street from 1-to-1. And a lot of students, if you're there, you get validated parking in that garage with your 1-to-1 membership for up to 3 hours. So if you have anything that you're doing during the week at Rainbow Babies or the old medical school where you're only going to be there for a few hours, a lot of students will park in there, and then they'll just walk into 1-to-1 on their way to or from whatever they're doing, grab a parking permit and park there for free as part of their membership. But yeah, and there's also a bus that'll take you directly from the HEC to 1-to-1 that drops you right outside. So it's very convenient. And a lot of us living in Cleveland Heights, it's a very convenient drive just because it's for the most part on our way home. So yeah.
There's also an Orange Theory. I know someone that goes there. So if you're an Orange Theory person, there is one here as well.
Oh, and the other thing to mention about 1-to-1, all the group fitness classes are included with the price of membership. So there's yoga classes, there's cycling, spin classes. I think they do dance classes too. I actually don't know. I haven't done any of the fitness classes yet, but I know those are all included with the price of membership. So
Yeah, I've done Zumba there.
perfect.
It's pretty fun.
Yep, and so Nova has a gym. I know Axis at Ansel has a gym. Those are two buildings that are close by to campus. And the new one, I think somebody mentioned it, but the new one that just went up at the top of the hill, right in Cedar Fairmont, called the Ascent. I just looked it up online, and that place has a ridiculously nice gym. So it's almost justified with the cost of rent in that building. But yeah, other questions?
Thank you.
So to Matt's question in the chat, there is a cafe in the HEC. It's like right behind me, and there's coffee, and then like across from me, there's like a whole food area. You can get like salads, sandwiches, pizza, things like that.
They do breakfast sandwiches in the morning, which I highly recommend. They're very tasty.
Yeah, one thing I like about both of those food places, well, actually just the bigger cafeterias, they serve it's healthy food. It's food that's pretty good for you, and it's fresh. And as far as that goes, it's pretty affordable. I mean, it's like about what you would pay anywhere else, but actually high quality food.
Yeah.
And what's the food scene like in Cleveland? Like just in general, like this overview.
The food scene?
Yeah, just in general.
Yeah, so I came from Chicago, where like that was my religion. And I actually have not been super disappointed at all. I've actually been pretty pleasantly surprised. I think the very common answer and recommendation from a lot of students on the east side is this place called Jug. It's kind of like a Mediterranean fusion spot, very good, very popular. It's kind of like a tapas, like shareable plate type place. And they actually have like a sister restaurant, same chef, open one on the west side. It's like an Indian fusion. It's called Amba. But across the board, there's really, really great restaurants. You can find like hole in the walls that are amazing. Coventry is a really popular place for like really, really good like restaurants that aren't like upscale. They're like affordable options that you can go to. One of my favorite restaurants is in Coventry, right down the road from me. It's called Tommy's. It's kind of like a vegan friendly, like diner kind of style place. Some of the best milkshakes in the city. And a lot of really good, I mean, there's so many different pockets of neighborhoods within Cleveland that have like different offerings. You're going to get a totally different vibe in Tremont. You'll get a different vibe in Ohio City, a different vibe in Cleveland Heights, even within Cleveland Heights and Coventry, Cedar Lee, Cedar Fairmont. And then Lakewood is obviously going to be a different vibe as well. So it's kind of cool that like each pocket has like different offerings. And I've been also brunch restaurants are really good here as well. There's a place called Grumpy's that I really like. And then Lucky's is another place that's been like featured on like Food Network and stuff like that. So
Shout out. We just went out with my IQ group yesterday to La Petite Triangle, I think is what it's called. I think that's in Ohio City. I don't know where it's at. La Petite Triangle. I guess the Jonas Brothers ate there, which is their big claim to fame if you're into that. But really good food. I had an espresso martini. Great start to the day. So good brunch. Moral of the story.
That's funny. Yeah, and there's a L'Albatross is a French restaurant on campus. It's higher end. If you ever have like, I don't know, if you have a partner or if your, parents come into town, make them pay for it. That's a great spot. My dad and I went there when we were visiting Case like 2 Augusts ago when I was like kind of looking at med schools. And we went out there, and I also went there for Valentine's Day this year with my partner, and it's a swanky place, but a great place, and they take care of you there. Yeah.
There's also good Italian food.
Great. Oh yeah.
Literally has great restaurants.
Yeah. On all the places in Little Italy you can't miss. Sorry, I'm talking so much, and I'm not even supposed to be on the panel. I'm supposed to just be moderating.
I think moral of the story is there's a ton of options as far as food goes. You probably can go wrong, but you probably hit more than you miss.
I have not gone wrong yet. And yeah, my partner he's also from Chicago. So he was used to like, Chicago has everything and then like 10 times what you could imagine. And he hasn't been disappointed here either. So it's very good.
Yeah. I would agree. Hopefully that answers your question. I see another question. Is there a cafe in the heck, right? There is a cafe. Yes, there is. How is it? I see a lot of the people frequenting the cafe, so I'll let some of those folks talk. If not, I formed relationships with most of the chefs in there as well. So I've been talking a lot, so I'm going to defer to other students. Luke, I know you go there a lot.
I think Luke and Lorena talked about it a bit. I've only really gone to the coffee bar.
Yeah.
I don't really go to the cafe much. The salad bar is pretty good, but
breakfast sandwiches are
there's
fire.
a Starbucks close by that I frequent all the time.
Yeah. The cafe is good. The breakfast sandwiches are amazing, and they load up your sandwiches and they take care of you there. And also, just if you do end up coming to Case, I would encourage you to get involved with recruiting events and admissions events, because for pretty much every single admissions event, so all these students on this panel right now are getting a free meal voucher as a result of their participation. So they're going to get a free lunch at the heck. So yeah, pretty nice. Other questions?
I was kind of curious about the timeline for finding housing. Like I've kind of been looking up, at rental housing on Zillow and stuff like that. And there's some availability, but not a ton, I guess. And I'm wondering if the peak availability has kind of already passed, or if you think there would be more availability in like May or June, like, leading up to when we would start in July. I know sometimes around like university campuses, people renew their leases super early, like, the previous fall or something. So I was just wondering what you guys thought about that.
Yeah, I had a similar like struggle when I was trying to move here because I came from Madison, Wisconsin, where it was very common to sign a lease in October for the next year. I'd say Cleveland is more around the 60-day mark when they know their availability. Like most of the places here, you give a 60-day notice if you're not renewing. So like that 2-month period before is like kind of the sweet spot for availability. Some places do a little earlier than that, but if you're not finding what you like now, I'm sure more will be popping up as the time gets closer.
Yeah, I started looking in May last year and I found a bunch of places. So if you're not finding places now, that's probably means that later on, even June, be able to find a lot more.
Yeah, I just signed a lease for like June. So like Lorena said, it's like very close window here.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's great. Yeah, that gives me permission to procrastinate until after graduation in May. So
Yeah.
thank you.
I would say usually a lot of students look around like the 2 month before moving. So like right around May is probably perfect if you're looking for like a July move-in. Mine's a little bit different. I was looking like all throughout April because I had a wedding in May that I wanted to be in Cleveland for. So I actually closed on my condo April 1st of last year. So wow, I've been here for a year, guys. Wow, my 1-year anniversary.
Nice.
But yeah, so April 1st of last year is when I closed, but it varies.
So I'm trying to remember, the school year starts in July though, right? For M1?
Yep.
Yeah, I think we start orientation July 10th or something.
Lucky you. We started the day after 4th of July.
Oh, wow.
So my move-in experience, I don't know if it's necessarily representative of like what the majority of people are going to go through, but like for me, I backed the U-Haul into this driveway June 10th, and that was just enough time. Like I wouldn't have wanted it to be any shorter. But I was moving a family of 4, so if that's not you, you probably need less time. But if that does sound like it's maybe you, I wouldn't go much shorter than at least a few weeks.
Yeah, something we talked
Yeah,
about. Go ahead, Tatiana. Sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna say I know a lot of people that like were moving into one University Circle or a Nova where they like waited a little too long and they just got a later move-in date. So like they were staying in hotels for like the first week or 2 of class and then moving in. I think I don't remember when exactly I signed very early for a Nova. We were like, I think it was like in March when we had already like committed to living there. And so my move-in was about a week before classes started. But if you are interested in like a larger, one of those bigger complexes, it might be worth just like calling to see their availability and like when the apartments would be opening.
Yep. Yeah, I think it totally varies. I think it's something we talked a lot about in the last panel was like just kind of depends on like what your values are and like what you need in order to like get settled. So yeah, just making sure you take that into consideration in terms of like what kind of neighborhood, what kind of vibe you want. Like with Luke, obviously he was looking for something a little bit more family residential since he does have a family of 4. And then some of us, like I wanted somewhere that I could like escape from campus and not like feel like I'm constantly on campus a lot. So I wanted to live a little bit further away. I'm only about a 12-minute commute though, by car. And then with other people, they just want to be able to wake up at like 7:30 and head out of their door at 7:50 and walk across the street. So it depends on what you want. And it depends on like what your current situation is in terms of how much time you need to move in or how long you want to be in Cleveland before starting to get acclimated. So I was here for like a month and a half before actually starting, just so I could get used to the city and just like figure out what it was I wanted to do for fun and where I was going to spend most of my time. So other questions? I think something we haven't talked about yet, at least in a ton of depth, is the cost of living. So we'll have, I'm trying to see real quick how much time we have left. We have about 12 minutes left. Okay. Yeah, so if people could talk about cost of living, you don't need to say any specific numbers or anything like that, but in terms of comparison to other places you live, do you think it's cheaper or comparable to other places you've lived? How do you feel about the cost of living here in Cleveland?
I can start. So the place I started in was a 3-bed, 1-bath. It was like 1,300 square feet. And I was paying around like 1,700 a month, which I feel like is pretty reasonable compared to where I was coming from. And now I live in a similar sized place in Lakewood that's much nicer, and I'm paying about the same because it's not as close to campus. So you can get more bang for your buck when you move further away. But overall, compared to where I came from, very cheap. Yeah.
Yeah, broadly speaking, if you're like one of the California folks or some of the Chicago folks, we have a few of those in our class. Nothing like that. Nothing like the East Coast. It's pretty affordable.
Yeah, I don't really have much of a metric. I went to college at Penn State, so like in terms of state college, the building that I lived in there was like brand new, and I was paying about the same amount for like a single there as I am for a double here in Inova. So I guess, yeah, I mean, it's like everyone has said, I think it's pretty good pricing for the location and where you are.
Yeah, I live in a 2-bed, 1-bath. It's $850 per person, 1,700 total, not including utilities. So it's not too bad. It's pretty affordable, and I only live like 8 minutes away from the HEC. So location wise, it's pretty convenient as well.
Yep. And I mean, I was looking into housing, like buying a house, and you can find very affordable housing in terms of buying. I think you can probably find a house here for anywhere between $100,000 to $150,000, which is pretty affordable, and still have it be pretty nice. We have a couple people in the class above us, or at least one that I know of, that actually is a landlord. So he like opted to buy like a multifamily home, and he lives in one of the units, and then he rents out the other one to help like pay for the mortgage, and supplement and have like a some sort of income. So if that's a situation you can swing, that's an option. Some students do. Yeah. Other questions? I want to make sure we address every concern or thought that y'all have. So feel free to does anybody have, can be anything about housing. I guess we can talk about transition to a warmer environment, since that was a question that people had. I don't think any of us are from that, but I know a handful of us have friends from warmer environments. And the thing that I hear from them consistently is invest in a good winter coat. Cleveland does get a little bit cold in the winter. So if you're not used to that cold weather, I would just say be prepared for that. This winter was actually pretty mild, but there can be, pretty significant accumulation of snow. It gets a little cold, and being right on the lake, there's going to be like a lake effect wind that comes into play. But yeah, I mean, overall, I lived in Chicago, and you get like similar vibes there with like the lake effect snow. I've been in the Midwest my whole life, so I can't really compare it to anything else, but I've managed, and I don't really find it all that crazy difficult. I stopped wearing my winter coat already, so did stop doing that a couple weeks ago, which is nice. So it's starting to get warm again.
Yeah, we haven't had any like bad snows. I think the 2 major snows happened when we were on break, and most of us were home. So it's been fine. I actually I guess I don't spend that much time outside because I walk from the HEC. I mean, it's like 5 minutes from me, but I had my parka here. I think I wore it like 4 times total. Like, it was not a very intense winter.
And if it says anything about the type of people that live in Cleveland, there is actually an outdoor music festival in the middle of the winter in Cleveland. And I went to it and I had a blast. You just kind of got to make sure you bundle up, but it was fun. It was like a kind of music festival / like arts festival thing. And they had like different stuff going on, and a bunch of different like food vendors and like breweries that came with like food trucks and different stuff like that. So just kind of like a Cleveland culture festival with different music acts just playing in the background. But yeah, it was fun. So I guess you could say we're a weird bunch by wanting to have a music festival in the middle of winter. Any other questions for our panelists? I think we have about 5 minutes left here. Yep. I guess I can ask those that are renting or considering moving or whatever it may be, like, talk about your experience and like what you know after your first year, what your kind of thought process is in terms of looking at future places to live, and kind of what's your thought process in terms of like where you want to be for second year and moving forward, especially when it comes to like rotations and things like that. Anybody?
So I just moved and I started close to campus because I thought it was my priority to like be able to walk to class every day. But I think I ended up kind of switching mindsets, kind of like Brian had said earlier, where I kind of want a place to go to escape campus and be away from the heck, I guess, which is like the main reason. I grew up like around Lake Superior, so I ended up moving out to Lakewood. So now out my living room window, I have a nice view of Lake Erie, just because I needed somewhere to like relax and just be away from school. So now my commute is pretty, it's on the lake, and I think it was worth moving and driving 15 minutes.
I'm kind of the opposite. I like prioritize being close to the heck. I really like studying at the heck. Like I'm at the heck right now. So when I was looking at a place to move for next year, just because like M2 year for at least the first half, you're still in classes at the heck and everything. So I wanted to find a place that I could definitely still walk and be close to my friends who also like a lot of, I think like some of my friends live like driving distance from the heck, but a lot of us also live close to the heck. So that was kind of my priority right now. M3 year, I'll probably see where life takes me. Because I know you can get placed in areas all around Cleveland, but for now that was my trajectory.
Yeah, I bought, so I'm kind of stuck in my place, but I love it here. So I'm stuck here for 4 years, but it's a very popular place for students and residents and fellows. I live right across the hall from a couple cardiothoracic surgeon fellows at the Cleveland Clinic. There's an M2 that lives on the floor above me. I'd said there's 2 M1s that live right across the street, like catty corner in the same community back here. And I actually have always wondered what a couple of the other buildings have looked like, and the people moving out of one are 2 surgeons that are together. So yeah, a lot of healthcare workers back in this area. Yeah, it's convenient. Other questions? Anybody wondering about life and any life in Cleveland questions?
So since no one's going to ask, one life in Cleveland plug, the Metro Park system in the Cuyahoga Valley National Park are so underrated. I don't think they get talked about enough, but the Metro Park system, they do so much good work. There's so many awesome parks, so much green space in the area. I think they call Cleveland the forested city, and it's like if you move here, you'll see why. I've never seen so much green space in a city before.
Yeah, I think that's actually a great transition. Let's talk about what people like to do for fun in the last few minutes we have. So I don't know who wants to kick us off.
I'm going to a Cavs game tonight, and they have pretty cheap student tickets. Like I think I got my ticket for like 25 or something. So that's pretty fun. That's something that it's a good time.
I'll be there too, partially. Yeah, actually tonight's college night. So there's like really cheap student tickets. And my hometown Pacers are playing, so I gotta go watch the Sirs. They're terrible.
I'm also going to Cavs game tonight. I also like the musicals here, like Playhouse Square is fantastic. They get a lot of really good quality shows, and tickets are also pretty cheap for us. So I'd say like most of the like big outings that we'll do as like my group of friends will go to see like the musicals or Cavs games or just go out to eat like some night. I really love exploring the restaurants because like we said, it's a great food scene here.
Yep. Actually, I just had a group text that was asking about going to the musical 6 in August. So that literally just happened like 20 minutes ago, courtesy of Tatiana. So there's a group of us that love going to Broadway shows. And there's so much stuff to do. Like Luke said, the Metro Parks, and I know we're about to get kicked off, so I'll speak quickly. First of all, thank you all for being here. But yeah, the Metro Parks, there's golf courses, municipal courses, like public courses all throughout the Metro Park system. So if you like doing sports and like being out and playing golf and things like that, that's super easy to do and affordable. And there's some really great courses around the area and some really great hiking and things like that as part of the Metro Parks as well. I actually saw, if you use Be Real at all or any sort of form of social media, I just saw a couple of our classmates were out hiking this morning. So yeah, it's very, very popular, very common. And yeah, it's a great spot. Tons to do in Cleveland, and really whatever you're interested in, you can find to do. So encourage you, if you haven't made the decision already, come to Case. It's a great spot.
All right. Well, I know I got cut off on mine. I don't know about you, Allie and Brian, but I just want to say